I'm back! Hello my friends, my name is AJ and welcome back to my book nook. It's been a while. I kind of disappeared for a month. I got very busy with a lot of stuff and honestly I didn't think that I was going to be gone for the whole month of February. But that's just how it happened. But I do promise that I am back. I know I'm going to be able to fit making videos into my schedule, so I promise I will be around for a while. Having said that, I think it's probably best that we just dive right into today's video because today we are doing another Pages to Stages video on Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. Now this book is such a great book and the movie is such a great movie as well, which is why I'm so excited for today's video. I have mentioned before, I am not a big fan of romance novels or rom-coms, but I actually saw Crazy Rich Asians, the movie, when it first came out, and honestly I was so blown away by it. It was unlike any other romantic comedies I had seen, and it really definitely just stuck with me and I just absolutely loved it. So then I got the book, I read it, and I absolutely loved it as well. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the things that they changed from the book to the movie, and we'll get to the bottom of whether the book or the movie is best. So as for what's the same from this book to the movie, it is mostly just the main plot that has been taken over. The story focuses on a girl by the name of Rachel Chu when her boyfriend Nick decides that he wants to take her to Singapore to meet his family as well as attend one of his best friend's weddings with him. That's where she discovers that he actually has a big secret. He is part of one of the richest families in Singapore and he is essentially one of the main heirs to this elaborate fortune, but she had no idea that he had all this money. He's a secret heir. When Rachel finds herself thrown into this high society life, she quickly finds herself feeling out of place as the people there have no interest in making her feel welcome, even going as far as accusing her of being nothing but a gold digger and doing everything in their power to try and drive her away from this life. Rachel finds herself dealing with status-obsessed matriarchs and jealous socialites, all trying to navigate this new world and her relationship with Nick. Meanwhile, we also get to see glimpses of Nick's family, especially his cousin Astrid, who discovers that her husband is cheating on her and tries to figure out how she can rectify that with who she thought the man she married was. One of the main things that changed from this book to the movie is really sort of the portrayal of each individual character. In the movie, we kind of focus mainly on Nick and Rachel's relationship, and we do get a bit of a B-plot with Astrid and her husband Michael, but it's less so focused on in the movie than it is in the book. And in the book, we also get to see a bunch of other relationships within the family as well. Let's start by talking about Astrid and Michael. So in the movie, Astrid discovers that her husband is cheating on her, but doesn't actually broach the topic of it until the day of the wedding. He ends up leaving the car while they're on the way to the wedding, and she breaks it off with him, telling him that he is the one who is insecure and that it's not her fault. Honestly, absolutely amazing scene, and I absolutely love it.
But I just realized it's not my job to make you feel like a man. I can't make you something you're not.
In the book, though, it's a lot different. We get a lot more build up to her figuring out that her husband is cheating on her, starting with her seeing flirty text messages, finding out from her jeweler that her husband had bought a bracelet that she never was received as a gift. Also finding out that someone had seen him in Hong Kong with a little boy, assuming that that must have been the child of the affair that she assumes he's having. Astrid actually confronts her husband about it way sooner in the book as well. She can't stop thinking that maybe he's going to meet with his mistress. Because she's so distracted by thinking about this, she ends up getting into a car accident, and when she's at the hospital, that's when she approaches him about what she has found. He's willing to end the relationship there. He's very eager to end it there, but she decides she doesn't want to because she's grateful that at least this is happening now, as many of these other rich socialites find their husbands having mistresses, and she'd rather he just got it out of his system and thinks that she should just suck it up, as most other women have the same issue as her. While at the wedding, Astrid reconnects with a man named Charlie Wu, who was her previous boyfriend. Now, we actually do see Charlie in the movie, but we only see him in a brief end credits scene where Astrid makes eye contact with him. And if you haven't read the book, there's actually no context as to who this man is. Astrid opens up to him about the fact that she thinks her husband is cheating on her, and so he helps her by hooking her up with some private investigators to try and find where he is in Hong Kong. When she approaches him, she finds out that he actually hasn't been cheating on her at all, but he has felt that their marriage has been completely failing due to her family's expectations of the kind of person that she should marry, and the fact that he'll never live up to those expectations. He wants to get out of the relationship and the family, but he doesn't want it to fall back on Astrid, so he's willing to make himself look like the bad guy in order for her to have a clean break. Speaking of Colin and Araminta, the bride and groom themselves, let's actually discuss what some of the things that got cut out in regards to them. So Colin is Nick's best friend, and we actually don't get a lot of information from him in the movie, but in the book we actually get to know him a little bit more. He suffers from depression, and we actually get to see how his mental health is affecting his life and this wedding that is coming up. Araminta seems like this perfect kind of outlier to this rich life in the movie. She definitely seems like someone who's super nice to Rachel, doesn't care about status, but we do actually learn in the book that she does care a bit about status. She's definitely very nice, she's definitely very humble and kind to Rachel. However, we do see that she still is very obsessed with image. In fact, she gets very upset when she sees Astrid at her wedding and at her wedding reception not wearing a brand new designer dress, but instead wearing something from last season, saying as something like, what's even the point of having this reception if Astrid isn't going to be dressed up very fancily and gorgeous for it. The movie also seems to gloss over just how important status is to this marriage. The rest of the relationships that we see kind of have to hang on the balance of who people are marrying. We see two of Nick's other cousins dealing with trying to live up to these expectations of status. We see Nick trying to marry Rachel even though people don't seem to like where her status is, and we see Astrid and Michael's relationship where people don't like where Michael's status is. And Colin and Araminta seem like very much a complete miss of this. It doesn't seem like the status and who they are has any effect on the marriage, but you find out in the book it actually does have a big effect on the marriage, because Colin and Araminta actually are somewhat of an arranged relationship. They're both very high status people, and while they do care and love for each other, that's not the main reason that they're together. The main reason that they're together is because of who their families are. Speaking of the cousins, let's talk a little bit about the two other relationships that are the main focus of this novel. First, we have his cousin Eddie, who is married to a woman named Fiona and has a few sons. Now, Eddie is completely obsessed with image to the point where he will emotionally abuse and actually threaten to physically hit his son simply for messing up his jacket. He's always yelling at his wife for wearing the wrong clothes or looking not the proper way, and at his sons as well for not knowing the proper amount of buttons to put up. And we definitely see that a lot in the book. In the movie, we see it very briefly at the beginning as we're getting glimpses of each of the family members, but we don't really see it past that. And I do think that we actually get to see Fiona kind of stand up for herself for the first time in the book, where we don't necessarily actually get to see any progression of that in the movie. The other main cousin is his cousin Alistair, who is dating a soap opera star named Kitty Pong. Now, Kitty is very interesting because she's complete opposite of Rachel. While Rachel is intelligent and classy and elegant and very grateful just to be there and there for love, Kitty is the complete opposite. However, both Kitty and Rachel get accused of being a gold digger, but the only one that's true is Kitty. I just think it's very interesting and definitely a great way to show this contrast of the fact that these two very different women, one of whom is such a wonderful woman for Nick to marry and one of whom everyone can agree is not a great person for Alistair to marry, get treated the exact same way, even though Rachel is such a wonderful woman for Nick. I've talked a lot about how Nick's family and the upper class people do not really approve of Nick and Rachel's relationship, and nothing is more clear about that than the sort of matriarchs of each of the families, especially Nick's mother. However, the way that that's shown in the movie versus the book, is very, very different. In the book, we have a lot of scenes where all of the matriarchs are kind of getting together for Bible study and getting together to come and gossip about what's going on a big trip to Hong Kong to go meet with a private investigator who dug into Rachel's past. And it's definitely very interesting to see from their perspective what's going on. And whenever she meets Rachel, Nick's mother is also very polite but secretly festering this hatred for her. She's always very polite of, oh, it's nice to meet you, very surface level greetings, but then we get to see that in her head she's thinking, oh, this girl is a gold digger, look at how expensive the clothes she's wearing are, she must be draining Nick's bank account. It's definitely very interesting to see versus the movie where she's very blatantly against Rachel to the point where she will actually tell her that she is not good enough for Nick. One other thing that I think is a big difference is just how much story there is after the wedding takes place. In the movie, Nick's mother and grandmother approach him and Rachel while they're at the wedding reception and reveal that Rachel's father is actually not dead like she had thought, but is actually alive and that she is a child of an extramarital affair.
She said her father passed away in China, but that's not true. Your mother's husband is very much alive. During her marriage, she cheated on him and became pregnant with another man's child. And before he found out, she ran away to America.
Now, Rachel is obviously upset by this because she had been told that her father was dead. She ends up running away and hiding at Peck Lynn's house until her mother is brought there by Nick, who tells her the truth about how she was in an abusive relationship and she is the child of an extramarital affair. After this, Rachel goes to talk to Nick's mother while playing mahjong and tells her that she will not force him to choose between his love for her and leaving him cut off from his family, or doing what his family wants, leaving him completely resentful of his mother for the rest of his life.
Because if Nick chose me, he would lose his family. And if he chose his family, he might spend the rest of his life resenting you.
She ends up going to leave and Nick's mother goes to talk to him and he goes back to propose to her again, this time with the blessing of his mother. And they end up getting engaged, and that's how the movie ends. The book is a lot different, a lot more happens. While they're at the wedding reception, Rachel is approached by some of the girls from Nick's past who tell her in very graphic detail about some of the summer flings that they've had with him. At this point, she gets so overwhelmed, not just by this history that he has with these girls that he's never brought up, but also by the fact that he never prepared her for the fact that this is what his life was like. And she had no idea and had no way to prepare herself going into it. Nick is very apologetic to her and takes her away to a cabin away from the city where he plans to propose to her. However, upon hearing that he's planning to propose, his mother and grandmother get to the cabin first and reveal then that Rachel's father is alive and not an extramarital affair, but actually in prison. Rachel is obviously very in shock by this, and Nick gives his mother and his grandmother a piece of his mind, telling them how vicious and horrible it was for them to reveal that to her and treat her as if she had known the entire time when clearly she did not. He takes her to a hotel for the night, which point she leaves and goes to Peck Lynn's house and actually plans to go to China to go and visit her father in prison. Before she can though, Nick comes with her mother, who he has flown out personally to fly back to Singapore, who tells her that the man in prison is not her father, but instead her abusive husband, whom she has had to escape from with Rachel, who was the child of an extramarital affair. Rachel reconciles with her mother and with Nick, who she decides to continue her relationship with, but does not get engaged. One more small detail I will bring up that I think is actually pretty important is the fact that Nick's family is not known at all in the book. In the movie, when Rachel tells Peck Lynn's family who it is that she is dating, they're all in shock that she's dating the Nick Young, that he is this crazy bachelor that everyone knows is super rich. But in the book, they still have no idea who he is. In fact, they think that his family is probably very poor considering he never talks about money. And then when they find out that he lives in this amazing manor that his grandmother lived in, then they suddenly discover, oh, okay, this guy isn't just rich, he's crazy rich. I think that the fact that they don't know who he is really important because Peck Lynn's family has money. They're incredibly rich as well. But the fact that even they they are not as high society to know about his very secretive family is very important detail, because I think it shows just how closed off this upper society is. Overall, I think that the main differences between the book and the movie seem to be trying to condense it down to focus mainly on Nick and Rachel's story and a little bit of a B-plot with Astrid and Michael. The movie also seemed to focus a lot more on giving more agency to the women in the story. Instead of chasing after Michael and repeatedly trying to get the relationship to work, Astrid is the one to end the relationship. The scene with Rachel talking to Nick's mother playing mahjong is another amazing scene. It showcases just how classy and intelligent Rachel is while showing the love that she has for Nick and how much she's willing to sacrifice for family. As much as I do love that, I do just wish that we could have seen it more fleshed out. I wish we could have seen Astrid's relationship with her husband more fleshed out, because I think it would have been so interesting to have that reveal of, oh, he's not actually cheating on her. It's actually because he's been wanting out of this marriage for a while, but he still understands that status is everything to these people. I would have liked to see the relationships of the other people in the family as well. In fact, I think that this book would have been really well suited to being a TV series or a mini series. I think that it would have been so cool to see that, because you could have specific episodes that are focused more so on specific couples in the family while still showing the main storyline of Nick and Rachel's relationship. Which is why I'm gonna have to say the book is better. There's also just so many things about the book that make it special that you couldn't incorporate into a movie. For example, there's a big family tree at the beginning of the book so that you can keep track of all the different family members, because trust me, you will need it. The book also doesn't shy away from using words in different languages and also using terms specific to the culture of the author, and I think that this is absolutely phenomenal because it lets the author showcase his culture. But to make sure that anyone who's not familiar with his culture isn't completely lost, the book has a bunch of footnotes at the bottom of each page explaining anything that you may need to have explained to you.
I actually wanted to cover one last thing before we finished up. I recently watched a video where this guy talked about how Crazy Rich Asians, the movie, deviated from the theme of money and more into a theme of cultural identity. Now, it was a really good video, but I actually disagreed with a lot of his points, but I also, unfortunately, watched it after having already filmed my video, so this is what you're getting. The thing is that I don't think Crazy Rich Asians was ever really about the money. Even in the book, money definitely plays a part in it, but as we see, it's more so about old money, and because of that, it's more so about status, it's about image, it's about how people perceive you.
A poor, raised by a single mother, low-class immigrant. Nobody.
So while I agree that yes, Crazy Rich Asians, the movie, does dive more into an idea of cultural and racial identity than it does in the book, I don't think that it completely got rid of the main theme of money and economic differences, because that was never the main theme. The main theme is about image and how trying to give a certain image of yourself to the world and being obsessed with that image can be damaging to relationships, both in your family and in your love life. It's just something that I was trying to convey in this video. I don't think I did very well, and I got a bit of inspiration from this video. If you want to watch this video, I'll link it down in the description. It's a really interesting video and you should definitely give it a watch.
Overall, I think that Crazy Rich Asians is one of the best romances, if not the best romance, I've ever watched or read. It doesn't just focus on one couple, it focuses on a bunch of couples, all dealing with their own issues, mainly focused around the idea of status and image. We see couples at different stages of these problems, both some that can never be saved and should never be saved, and some that are worth saving and working through. And I think that that's what makes it such a great romance novel, and I think that's what any romance novel needs, is it needs to be aware of what it's doing and have a purpose, other than just these two people are in love. What I really love about this novel is that it doesn't just show romantic love. It shows a balance between romantic love and love for family while having this beautiful display of the author's culture. It breaks the mold in so many ways, which is why me, as someone who isn't a big fan of romances, was so drawn in by it and so just absolutely in love with it. If you are someone who is also not into romances, or maybe you are into romances and you're just looking for a new one to try, then I highly suggest giving Crazy Rich Asians a read or picking up the movie and see how you like it, because I think it's the best romance that I've ever watched or read. But that's it for me today. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up, and let me know in the comments below. Have you watched Crazy Rich Asians, or have you read the book, and what did you think of it? Do you prefer the movie over the book, or did this video make you want to give them a shot? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to have a conversation with all of you. But that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see all of you lovely people in the next video. Bye!